Hey everyone. Thank you for rising early and joining us at this second general session for Lux. So the title here is Inside the World's Smartest, Coolest Lux Tech Home Ever. It sounds like it's hyperbole. It sounds like an exaggeration, but when I saw this virtually about 3 weeks ago as a member of the quote-unquote press, I was like, that's really cool. I've never seen that much stuff packed into a house and innovatively done. And so I don't think my hyperbole is actually far from the truth. And I've always seen you guys in the Lux world as folks that you're Marco Polo. You go out and you find cool new things and you bring them to your clients. So what we're going to try to do today is just for your clients who want be-all, end-all tech, we're going to have some, I think, good ideas in part or in whole that you can bring back to your clients. The fellow who's presenting, Heron Gutin, has been on point with this project for a good long while and is doing a lot of the virtual and in-person presentations. He was going to be sitting here, but there was a little outbreak of sorts, or potential outbreaks. So Heron is going to join us remotely and walk us through. And here's what we're going to do. We're not going to treat this like it's a television show. I'm going to come down there. I'm going to play Phil Donahue. And you guys are going to be, and gals, are going to be interactive. You're going to be on your toes, ready to ask questions. You're going to say, I don't understand that. Can you explain that to me? Or, that's really cool. How did you do that? Or, I don't believe that any of my clients would, whatever it is. Let's make this interactive. So don't disappoint me in my Phil Donahue role, okay? And some of you are targeted. You have targets on your back for having a mic put in your face. Okay, so let's bring Heron in. There he is, and he's not frozen.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to Vegas Modern. This is a project that is many years in the making. It is a representation not just of where Savant is today, but we really think about this house as 15 years in the making. So our company was founded 15 years ago, and we've been working ever since to deliver the industry's best experience we possibly can. Now, we're biased. We think we're doing a pretty good job here, but obviously 15 years means that we have developed, we've innovated, we've progressed solutions. Some technologies have come and gone. I don't know if everybody remembers component video, but obviously Savant is very different today than it was 15 years ago. And we really could not have delivered this kind of experience until just now. So we're looking at the house here. This is the external view. It is pretty awesome. It's situated in Henderson, Nevada, just about 13 miles outside of Las Vegas. And if you don't know about our company, so Savant Systems is really a few different divisions all wrapped into one organization. Savant was founded in 2005. We focus on premium home automation. We make an entire ecosystem of product, which we're going to show off to you today. Last year, we actually acquired GE Lighting, which is now a division of Savant, which means that we offer everything from very affordable smart devices from our Sync family and light bulbs and all kinds of things you would think of when you think of GE, certainly one of the most recognized brands on the planet. And then recently we acquired our sister company, RacePoint Energy, and redubbed it Savant Power. Savant Power focuses on renewable energy and really energy intelligence for not just our homes, but even on the utility side. And really all of these elements are packed in here. So Vegas Modern 1 is the name of this home, and that is really a representation of our partner's design ethos. So we partnered with a luxury design-led developer in the Las Vegas market named Blue Heron. This company has multiple plan developments, but also does really bespoke custom homes. And certainly this is one of them. And this project started off for them as really a showroom, a model home that was meant to really define what their design ethos was and to give potential buyers an opportunity to experience this. When we got involved through a really excellent integrator partner of ours in that market, EagleSentry, who does all of the automation for their homes with Savant. And the more we learned about this project, and this is going back almost 3 years, it became clear that our lighting solution, our energy solution, and our entertainment solution were really a perfect match for this home and the general design approach that this particular developer takes. And this started off a really excellent partnership between our two companies. And the result is pretty astounding. I'm really excited to show it off here. So we have packed this house with literally every aspect of the Savant ecosystem, from a door station at the entrance to a full next generation lighting system and a complete Savant power experience. There's well over $1 million of product throughout the entire space. And I'm going to challenge everybody. There's only going to be a few instances when we go through the house today where you're actually going to see technology besides a television. And that has been our goal from the beginning. So big picture, there are over 43 zones of entertainment, indoors and outdoors. This includes audio and video distribution, 35 displays, Savant's video tiling experience, and all kinds of fun music distribution. There's over 450 lighting loads in the house and hundreds of feet of LED strip. 387 of the lighting fixtures actually are what we call infinite color plus. They change any color we want, and they bring a next generation circadian lighting solution to this entire space, which we'll definitely show you today. As I mentioned, we have integrated a Savant power solution into this entire home. That means that we have made the electrical panels smart. We have real-time energy utility grade monitoring. And then we have a whole battery pack that's being prepped in Texas and will be delivered to the house as soon as the county signs off on us turning on the massive solar array and flipping on the batteries. This house will actually operate off-grid. And there's well over 40 shades throughout the space. And that's just a few of the big picture highlights here. What ties this all together is our premium user interface. And I say premium because truly our interface ties in a whole bunch of fun into one easy to use experience. The photographs, the particular, what we call Savant scenes are actually user created buttons where we can tie in multiple things, audio, video, lighting, shades, HVAC, all into one button press. And this is actually driven by the user. Now, since this is a model home, there isn't someone living there every day, but in any Savant home on the planet, our customer can build their own button, schedule that button, and even assign that button they made on their phone in our app to a physical keypad button in the wall. And all of this is made easy to use through our pretty intuitive user interface. Yes, sir.
Just trying to keep it interactive, but back to the UI on that. The using the scenes from the house and then the icons for taking action. I mean, how did your human factors engineers come up with the idea that that's a comfortable interface? I mean, it's unusual, right? Typically, we would just give icons and let people understand the symbology of it. Give us a little bit of the logic behind that.
Oh, that's a great question. This actually goes all the way back to 2013 when we kicked this off. And at that time, as you mentioned, John, pretty much you were either making your own user interface in Photoshop, and I think most integrators are really good at running wire and making things work and audio, video, and all of those elements, but they're not all designers. They're not all sort of learned in the way of making a great user experience. And so at that time, what we found was a big disparity between the type of experience customers were getting. And while we were always providing a single UI, what we really looked at was, can we do this better? Can we get our customer from point A to point B faster? Can we be more communicative about where you are in the home and what you're controlling. And this really led us to thinking about a home in the same way we would when we describe a new house we bought to our friends and family. They don't say, hey, what color are the floors? They say, tell me about the house. And we say, oh, it's this many bedrooms and it's this many bathrooms and it's et cetera, et cetera. And so we really focused on making our UI very much room-based. Once we really thought about that, and we thought about the ease with which our user can move from room to room to room, it really created a very easy to use, quick to learn UI that eliminated just a ton of button presses. I mean, if we think about some other solutions on the market, even today, if I was sitting in the living room, but I left the light on in the master bedroom, and I wanted to go shut that light off from the couch, it might be 4, 5, 6, 7 button presses for me to get from the room I'm in a user interface to the master bedroom to lights to shut it off. Whereas we can do this much, much quicker in our UI, which I can certainly show in a little bit. But this idea was fundamentally rooted in a fierce focus we have on eliminating unnecessary button presses and trying to get our customer from thinking I want to do something to actually doing that as quickly as we possibly can. And so we took some of those elements that we know we need. The iconography here is really important. It represents lighting and door station and cameras, but we superimpose this over a photograph. This photograph can be replaced. There are stock photos in the app, but our customer can snap a photo. In our case, for this home, and many of our dealers do this, we actually brought in a really accomplished photographer, professional photographer for a day, did a whole room shoot of the entire house, and then utilized those photos to make this user interface as absolutely beautiful as we possibly can. I think also for guests, it's really easy to understand a smart home ecosystem if you live in that home every day. But when grandma and grandpa come over, it's nice for them to see a photo of the kitchen in the kitchen to understand that when they press that TV button, the TV is going to turn on in that room. And so there were a ton of benefits here. And we have been really iterating since we initially released this experience in 2014.
Yeah. And I think improvements in user interface and user experience, right, with this UI, probably also helpful in the sales process, right? Instead of trying to explain a bunch of systems and whole house, et cetera, people experience homes, they think about buying homes room by room in many ways, and to present it in that format, makes the technology probably more compelling from a sales perspective as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully we're all proud of our homes. We spend a lot of time thinking about color and texture and finishes, and it's nice to actually have that reflected back at us. I find most consumers react really positively when you go on a potential job walk and you're using our application in a demo mode, which is easy to access, and you're snapping a few photos of rooms as you're going around the walk, and the customer's saying, I want a TV here and maybe a home theater here. And at the end of that walk, when you're able to turn around that application and show them what their smart home might be like when you're all done and give them a real experience, sort of a fast forward to the finish of the project, it certainly widens some eyes and makes people sit up a little straight. And I have heard some expletives and some, hey, that's really cool from a lot of end users on some walks that I've been on. So for sure, our customers have reacted incredibly positively to this, including our dealer base. So this is something our dealer base really fell in love with in 2014. And again, we have continued to iterate and improve as we move our software platform forward. One of the key elements of this home to understand, and I mentioned this a couple times, is the design ethos. And so this design-led firm, Blue Heron, they do everything in-house, from architecture to structural drawings to all the interior design. While that raises the burden for the developer to be involved in literally every single measurement, every aspect of the house, it does produce a pretty cool end result. And this particular firm focuses on something called biophilic design. And it's really all about blending what is the indoor and outdoor space and really making those occupants feel as close to being both inside and outside at the same time. because of that, we really focused on integrating our technology in ways that allowed them to be present when you need them. You hear music when you want to, without puckering the walls or adding wall acne. So we really wanted to integrate our solution into this home as quietly and as invisibly as we possibly could. And I'm going to show the room several examples of that today. In addition, if you've got a 15,000 square foot space in the desert, energy is really important, and understanding how to make this home sustainable was a key element for us. This is something we are focused on, and our Savant Power team spends their whole day working on every day. And this home really is all about showing off how Savant is entering that space and really providing the world's most intelligent energy management solution. And of course, we talked about our end user experience. So, biophilic design, as I mentioned, is really about blending indoors and outdoors. And so this photograph that we're looking at is actually in the master suite. And this is the area called a retreat. And actually, there's a door behind that chair that's actually open, but you can see how the rocks move from the outdoor garden, which for those of you who haven't spent much time on the West Coast in the desert, this is what we call landscaping. And you can see that makes its way all the way through the house. Everywhere you go through this house, there are visions of the outdoors, water features, fire features, and the garden seamlessly blends from indoors to outdoors. And it creates this really calming experience of sort of being at one with the lot on which this house was built. And in order to achieve this goal, there are many mechanisms that Blue Heron has integrated into the space, including 22 power windows. So these are full, typically floor to ceiling window doors that are completely automated. And I took the liberty of including a little video here so we could show the room what this looks like. So we're going to be standing in the great room, and we can press a single button and 2 walls of glass actually open up to the pools. And the glass behind that 98-inch screen actually slides into the house, allowing the breeze from outside and the natural air to make its way into the house. Of course, you could be hanging out in the pool, watching a football game. You yell out for another beer. Someone can bring that to you from the kitchen. It creates this really awesome experience where you feel as if you're both indoors and outdoors at the same time. And as I mentioned, there's 22 of those doors throughout the house. So at any moment, we can open up the entire home to the outside. This is great for entertaining, but certainly for most of the year when it's not 118 degrees in the desert, it's a very lovely place to be. Very nice, cool breeze off the desert. Really makes the house not only cool down, but again, it creates this feeling of being really both inside and outside at the same time. It's something I have not seen in any home. It's my first experience working with this particular door technology, and it's been pretty cool to see not only the end result, but how efficient these windows are in the installation. They don't take up a ton of space. Certainly you need to plan for them, and they need to fold into a cavity. But once you've done that, it's a pretty powerful experience for those that are in the room. Now, one of the other elements of biophilic design is ample natural light. And if you're familiar at all with Savant, you may know that we've been focusing on circadian lighting solutions for the better part of 3 years. And we do this with a partner, USAI Lighting. USAI is a multi-decades old lighting fixture, specification grade fixture manufacturer who actually released the world's first tunable lighting fixtures. But like we mentioned with some of our integrators, they're not necessarily user interface experts. And so they had this amazing fixture that could change into billions of colors, but not a really good way to squeeze out all of the functionality out of that fixture. And that's where our partnership with USAI took form. So we have developed something we call daylight mode. And this has been on the market for the better part of 2.5 years. And what we do is we actually allow the lights to track with the sun outside. So they're going to start warm in the morning, and they're going to progress to a cool temperature by about mid-morning, 8:39 a.m., and then slowly progress back to a warm temperature by the end of the day. And this is directly mirroring what the sun does outside. It starts warm, it gets really cool and crisp, and then slowly until sunset, it's getting warmer. Now, you might think with all this light, we don't need something like this, but in a home like this, daylight mode plays a pretty awesome and critical role in that it amplifies the available daylight and really stretches that daylight into every nook and cranny of the space. And so here we are looking at the guest suite, and this is one of the more approachable spaces. The ceiling height is pretty normal, and it's a lovely, lovely bedroom. And you can see we've got tons of light here coming from this deck outside. But also there's some areas of shadow that the designer actually built into this space. And what we did is we took the liberty again of doing a little time lapse here so we can actually show you the progression here. So as we see the sun is setting, the lights are getting warmer. We're going to see that sun cascade against that wall as the lights on the right side of that bed actually shift naturally to that warm temperature and then stay there as the sun finally sets, the strip lights up, that fire pit turns on. And again, all of this is automated. We've not pressed any button. Daylight mode turns itself on in this house every day at around 6:30 in the morning and then progresses throughout the day. And what this does for the homeowner is there's really a massive reduction in the number of interactions required during the day, as well as freeing up keypad buttons and reducing the number of physical keypads we need throughout this house. There's actually only 28 keypads deployed throughout this entire space, despite the fact that there are hundreds of lighting fixtures in multiple rooms. Daylight mode, when I press a button, turns on to the right temperature and intensity at that particular time of day when I press the button. And if I leave it alone, it just progresses throughout the day. And I can change the lights anytime I want to. But customers that live with this, like myself, I tend to not touch the lighting in most of my spaces throughout the day anymore. They do what I want them to on a schedule every day, starting in the morning, ending at night. And they always are the right temperature based on time of day. It's pretty darn powerful. And so,
Hey, Aaron.
Aaron, yes, sir.
So yesterday's panel, you weren't here, but there was a little bit of skepticism expressed around the circadian rhythm lighting factor, and I'm going to bring you to one of the panelists, see if he has any questions. There he is.
Sure.
He's got that deer in the headlights look.
It wasn't me, but I'll take the mic. No, I'm kidding. You know, I guess this is amazing. By the way, what you're showing. I mean, my
Thank you.
Head's exploding. It's pretty cool stuff. In terms of what we're doing with some modern homes in Florida, we're not getting into the circadian rhythm stuff just because we are bringing in a lot of natural light already. But you've kind of opened my mind up to the possibilities. But on the other side, we're just not getting the push from the clients and from the designers, you know, in Florida that this is something we need to be going after. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on that?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways that you can broach this subject, and it really we focus on really qualifying the customer, right? So some customers are really going to be keen to the technology and maybe some of the wellness benefits. But I think there's some practical examples that every customer can relate to. So any museum you've gone to in the last 50 years has a light focused on a piece of art that either has been specifically manufactured to produce a specific temperature and intensity of light with a particular saturation level of a particular color that is meant to bring out all of the lovely attributes of a painting. This is also true with fabrics, right? So our customers, especially in fine homes, they're spending millions of dollars on all kinds of sofa, couch, shades. They're making fabric decisions. Interior designers will spend days or months looking for the right blue pillow for a couch. And then typically we just stick it under a yellow light and call that done. But maybe we could use light to actually make sure that the colors we want to pop to the eye are. And this is done in museums all the time. You can actually manipulate the CRI value that our eye perceives. So reds will pop with particular light, or we can mute red so it doesn't seem as vibrant. And so there are ways that light and the ability to tune light goes well beyond circadian rhythm. From an entertaining perspective, do I run around the house with Prince Purple all the time? No, but when we're entertaining, it's really fun for me and my wife to be able to press a button and introduce saturated colors throughout the entire house. It makes it feel festive for our guests. And of course, I'm talking about life as if it wasn't a little constrained currently. And it also makes the house feel special that night for me and my wife. And so there are a bunch of ways that tunable lighting actually makes life just a little bit more fun, maybe makes our fixtures and our finishes and fabrics look a little bit more vibrant. And in general, I think most customers will react well to one of those three elements here. At a minimum, warm to dim, or what we call warm glow fixtures, are also really important to consider when you're building a new home. Maybe the customer isn't into tuning light to a particular temperature, but they do want those LED lights to totally dim exactly like an incandescent bulb. This is also something that next generation lighting solutions can easily deliver. And so I think there's a ton of opportunity for all of us in this space. It is a relatively new technology. And so we're always going to find that there are going to be some that are hesitant in the beginning and some that dive right in. But I can tell you 3.5 years into delivering this solution to the market with thousands of fixtures under our belt, we're seeing a radical increase in adoption rate across our entire dealer base. And I anticipate that is being largely driven not just by their awareness of this solution and maybe their ability to explain it a little better, having tried it a few times, but also I think our customers are more open to this, especially as they skew younger. They're going to be more interested in RGB or WRGB lighting and color. And I think that bodes well for all of us to open up opportunities to light our spaces in new and fun ways.
A couple questions. One, I noticed you don't see any lights. They're all in recessed cavities. Did you start with that design at the very onset with the structural designer? That's one. And are the lights all run by processors? So everything is low voltage wiring and no, high voltage?
Two awesome questions. Perfect segue. If you want to go on the road, Serge, just let me know. We can go around doing these presentations for everybody. So my next slide is all about what are called the troughs in the ceiling. So this is a design element that came directly from our development partner, Blue Heron. They really focus on trying to sort of eliminate any of that wall acne and create spaces that seem sort of integrated into the room that house technology so that they sort of disappear to your peripheral. So every single bit of technology in this home has been integrated into these reliefs in the ceiling and the walls, whether it's lighting, camera, sprinkler system, air returns, the speakers and subwoofers. So we're looking at the master suite here. There are 78 lighting fixtures in this room that change any color we want. There are 24 Savant nano architectural speakers, really small 4-inch speakers, and 8 subwoofers throughout this entire room. And basically you can see that keypad on the bedside there. And there's a touch screen or two embedded into some reliefs in the wall. But beyond that, everything else is totally hidden to the eye. It is a pretty awesome end result. I will tell you, it is very labor intensive. Every one of these reliefs had to be really laid out specifically by location based on what needed to be housed inside that relief. And I continue to fall further and further in love with this design approach. It certainly is not inexpensive. Your other question, very astute, is about the lighting. So yes, most of these lights, 387 of them, are controlled by a DMX controller. If you're not familiar, DMX is a technology that comes from stage lighting. If we think about a rock concert with thousands of lights, since 1986, we have not had to run a home run of wire to every single light on every rock stage in the world. DMX allows for daisy chaining and for a signal to be repeated by several lights. And so this house has over 28 DMX controllers controlling lights all over the home. This is part of why we're able to reduce the number of keypads because we're not controlling the light in a traditional way where we are removing electricity, adding electricity, or introducing resistance for dimming. We're actually sending an electronic command to the light to tell it, go to this dimming value, go to this color value. And so it allows for, again, less keypads because we don't need to run the hot to every switch leg, and really enables us to group lights in new ways. If this customer decides they want to change the grouping a little bit when this home is ultimately moved into, we actually can do that quite easily without ever rewiring anything. We're just going to click and drag and reorganize some groups of lights, upload a new configuration to the Savant host, and we just reorganize lighting without cutting a wall or calling an electrician.
We were looking at doing this DMX lighting in a home we just completed, and I was told by everyone, the supplier, the electrician, nobody would stand behind it, nobody would do it with ceiling heights as tall as they were to get the lumens and the foot candles down where we were sitting, and we just went a different direction. Have you found that this is readily accessible and works and all the bugs have been ironed out? I don't know if I can say, Lutron has a company that they were working with to develop this as well.
Yeah, and we have hundreds of homes working with this technology, including my own. There is a category cable that runs generally between lighting fixtures up to 32 fixtures. We found it to be very reliable. I mean, we certainly have worked on this before we released it, but we're happy to discuss this with you on any upcoming project. We've got this in some of the finest homes in the country, including Vegas Modern. You know, with the single press of a button, I can effectively change color on 387 lighting loads and every strip throughout the house. And the response time is instant. And certainly DMX is a proven technology. It's in every playhouse, every concert you've been to, again, since 1986. It is a professional lighting communication protocol that we have applied to residents and made easy for our dealers to deploy and pretty easy to implement inside our software suite.
I had a question. I'm like Greg. I'm just fascinated by this. And Greg and I, we've been talking a lot. He's in Orlando, I'm in Austin, and we like to try to be a progressive company. But there's so much, right, or what you talk about, and you said it's a new technology. What kind of support do you have for us? What kind of presentation can we make sense to the clients? Because the clients will probably have a certain time of spend. Can you train us on this? What kind of, what can you do for us to just help to do this?
That's a great question. So we have, Savant integrators all over the United States and certainly the larger planet. Ambassador Savant integrators are integrators that actually have all of this on display. And so, myself, I show up at meetings virtually and in person all the time. I'm happy to assist any integrator, any builder in explaining this technology. We've created all kinds of tools. I can give a virtual tour of this space. We've got some videos. Of course, experiencing this in person is pretty cool, and there are ways that we can do that. Obviously, we have this space in Henderson, Nevada that we can do a personal tour of, and for 15 years, we've had a space in Manhattan that is our first experience center that has all of this technology out on display. And it's just a couple blocks from our partner, USAI. They have what they call a collaboratorium also in Soho, right in Manhattan. And, a lot of times we'll do a whole presentation on Savant and then walk over to USAI and show some other features that are available. So there's a bunch of ways we can do this. Mostly what we do is provide white glove service to our dealer base. So we focus on providing our customer as much information and support as possible. We have a very large organization. We have a full customer support team that's available 7 days a week. That's supporting our GE customers all the way to our premium Savant customers, and that's globally. So every day, the Savant team and the GE team are waking up and supporting these projects and our dealers deploying them through phone and email. And of course, our sales team is out in the wild supporting our integrators. So the best way to do this is to partner with a local integrator that you're comfortable with, that you've got a great relationship with, that is really leading the charge on this and can be your expert. And if you focus on maybe partnering with an ambassador Savant integrator in your area, and this is something you could look up on our website, you can be sure that if they are noted as an ambassador dealer, they are all in on Savant. They have this technology on display for a customer to experience in your local market.
Hey, Aaron, just one last thing, and then we got to go fast because we're getting bogged down. But you and I talked about the troughs, and I just think there's a genius there aesthetically, which is when we have a lot of stuff to put in the ceiling, we try to do it a nice way, but no matter how hard we try to do it nice, it still ends up looking like, the restaurant ceiling just with better sheetrock behind it. But this is like, it puts it in its place, and even though it isn't invisible, it makes it invisible. And look at how clean the rest of the ceiling looks because it's in its place. So that may be expensive to do and plan, but I sure think it's got an aesthetic edge versus what's traditionally done.
Yeah, I've fallen in love with it. And you bring up a good point. I mean, invisible is something we definitely focused on. So here we are in the great room. This has a completely invisible audio system with 4 speakers and 4 10-inch subwoofers throughout this entire room. And yet the only technology we see is the television. And again, to your point, we can see there's lights up here, but what our eye focuses on is the ceiling below. And, again, this is what we believe a smart home should be. Technology should be there for us when we need it, but it doesn't necessarily have to pucker our walls and be dominant to our eye. We can integrate technologies in a way that allow it to be hidden in plain sight and sort of provide the experience we want when we need it without, again, puckering the wall or creating some weird aesthetics in the space. All of us have been in a house where there was not perfect symmetry in a ceiling, and it's the first thing our eye goes to, and it's the first thing the interior designer calls out.
And
Aaron, one of the other
Aaron, just one
yes,
other
sir.
thing we can't see. You said that it's invisible sound, but the latest generation of invisible sound, we've had a significant upgrade in the quality of sound for these sheetrock based sound systems, right? I mean, you could say it. I think
absolutely.
People are going to have to experience it, but we're kind of on par now with grill-based speakers with these invisible speaker systems, and in some cases, better play just based on the diffusion of the sound, right?
Yeah, I mean, advances in magnetics and sort of driver technology and materials have allowed us to create more rigid, invisible speakers that actually can produce a warmer sound with a lot more bass and a very inviting whole house audio experience. While you can do home theater with this, it's not, you're not looking for, eyeball crushing levels of sound with invisible. You're really trying to make sure you have a great hi-fi experience and a great listening experience without, again, dominating the room or cutting in a grill. And so right in the fascia of this soffit are 2 speakers, and actually hidden in a cavity up here are 2 subwoofers. And the same thing behind where this camera was sitting when we took this shot, there's a soffit on the other side of the room, just like this, firing in. And you can walk anywhere throughout this great room kitchen area and have great sound with a full range experience. And all of that's driven by invisibles.
Yeah, and I think multi-room applications of this, it's like soundtrack of your life. Instead of walking into little cones of sound, you're being surrounded by a soundtrack, and that is cool. And that's the sort of stuff, that's the next generation sort of stuff that you luxury builders should be delivering, instead of a pair of speakers in the wall and, oh yeah, there is multi-room audio, but you want to give them the best and coolest experience. And this is what you guys, set out to do in this modern 001, whatever you call it.
Absolutely. I mean, the master suite, like we were just looking at with 24 of our nano architectural speakers, is all about ensuring that we have a seamless transition as you walk through that space, so that you're never walking out of a speaker's firing area and you're always enveloped by sound. Ultimately, that customer ends up listening to sound just a little bit lower, but has a more full and rich experience with the music they love.
Okay,
now, one of the other fun things about
one of
the other fun things about this house is that it completely changes at night. And so those lights that were cool become warm, the pool lights up, and we can see the great room completely open. And really the best lighting element of this entire house is the view of the strip at night. It's amazing, and I count it among the Savant lighting experience in this space because it really makes your jaw drop. There's also tons of entertainment throughout the space. And so we created an awesome home theater experience with a 13.5-foot wide, 175-inch diagonal professional XLED wall. This picture makes it a little bit hard to understand, which is why I say it's 13.5-foot wide and is a full 4K screen. And if you notice, we've actually mated this with a Savant passive soundbar and a full surround experience and a custom Savant grill. We do this for every soundbar we manufacture. For an additional $400, we will make a grill that perfectly matches the width of the television or screen you are mating that speaker with. And what it really enables is this perfect looking screen where the speaker looks as if it came out of the factory with the television. We also have a Zoom room set up in this space, so work from home or call grandma and grandpa, sit on the couch and have a really awesome Zoom experience. There's a camera hidden in this space, and we can literally press a button inside the Savant app, enter that Zoom room, and again, have a great conversation with the family or friends. Lastly, although not last in our mind, is sustainability. And so here's an awesome real drone photograph of the roof here. This is actually the largest solar array in Nevada residentially at over 327 panels on the roof. And as I mentioned, this is part of our Savant power experience. And so we're going to generate a ton of power here. 148 megawatt hours annually is a lot of electricity. And we're going to feed that into a battery solution. So we start by making the panel itself intelligent. And this is through Savant Power's breaker companion modules. These are smart devices that snap into a standard Schneider, Square D, or Eaton panel and wire up in parallel with a breaker. They first and foremost, they provide utility grade energy monitoring, and we get a ton of information about energy draw. We then are able to tie all of this together through software and technology. So you can have generator and battery solution integrated. We have our in-charge home grid processor that'll be sitting right outside that panel, talking Bluetooth low energy to all the devices inside the panel itself. And then finally, we give you this incredible user experience so that you can actually decide when you wake up in the morning and you know you've got 100% battery, you're going to be working from home. You can actually put the house in island mode and sever the connection from the grid, move over to battery, and just run the house on battery until you decide you don't want to do that anymore and press another button and move right back to being on grid. There's things like storm watch mode that maybe start shaving off non-essential loads to protect the house. And of course, an energy saver mode where you've actually identified loads that are not important in the house, and we can actually shave power off your bill. At a really fundamental level, we've done a lot of work to ensure that we are providing as much energy intelligence in this home as possible. So flexible load management is a great place for a builder to start. This really only takes breaker companion modules and a processor outside that panel. And we can start providing that customer with not only real-time utility grade energy information, what's drawing, how much power are the lights, the stoves, the refrigerators drawing. But again, we can also take control over power, shutting off loads for vacation mode, ensuring that we're not drawing vampire power while we're not home. And what we find is this type of visibility really creates more informed customers that are making smarter decisions on their own, because they now know that 15% of their energy bill for the last 5 years has actually been their pool pump. Why is that, they ask? Well, maybe they're running that pool pump 5 or 6 days a week when they can do it maybe every other day. And that actually lowers their carbon footprint, lowers their bill, and doesn't break any sort of standards of how they want to live. They can still use the pool whenever they want to, but just understanding that draw of electricity versus their bill actually for most customers allows them to make better decisions. And that visibility is really, really critical.
Hey, it's Greg again from Orlando. So one thing we obviously overlook from time to time is the space that's required to house the brains of this entire network. What's your advice on that, and how much do you need for a house like this?
That's an awesome question. So, the Savant ecosystem has always been an IP-based platform. We were actually the first completely network-based smart home solution when we released our product in 2005. And over the last 15 years, we've done more and more and more with that. Today, we move high-resolution audio across the network. We move lossless 4K video up to 1,000 feet away from the rack across the network. And what this has allowed us to do, Greg, is actually start really combining different elements of an audio video distribution system into single integrated products, reducing the amount of space we require. So I'm 5'6". I don't have a very wide arm span. I can actually stand in the room where 3 racks of equipment support this entire space and touch either side of that of that room itself. So there is a massive reduction of the space requirements from a rack perspective with Savant because of the way that we move audio and video across the network. Now, not every home is going to have ceiling heights that are friendly to new lighting fixtures, but you should know that we can do everything from a 2-inch high above the ceiling lighting fixture to new construction IC rated, 5.5-inch high lighting fixtures. So we really can work in a variety of environments, but from a space requirements perspective, like I said, there is a cubby almost at the back of the pantry and the kitchen that houses 3 racks of equipment that support this entire 43 zone audio video distribution system. Now we've got some nooks and crannies around the house because for LED lighting strips, the drivers do need to be within 50 feet. And so you'll see that in a closet in the guest suite and in a closet in the back of the master suite and a couple of other spaces. We've tucked in some housings for LED drivers. I think I showed a photograph of one here like this. Or here's one in the guest room where we just needed a few of these in that space. And again, hidden behind a panel, not seen, but needs to be within view, within that 50-foot range. So not as much space is required as once was. And with Savant, a radical sort of reduction in space requirements is possible.
Hey, Heron, can you go back to Digital Den for a sec?
Sure.
So I really like this room. I like the fact that it's multi-purpose. I think, the legacy in luxury is dedicated home theater room. Well, I think the viewing consumption patterns of the buyer have changed since home theaters became popular 20, 25 years ago. There's a lot of multi-screening and multitasking, and so I think you get a heck of a lot more utility having your key critical viewing and listening area in a space like this where multiple things could be going on at the same time, or people can tune in and just watch. But give us a little bit of the thinking behind this room, because you went even beyond that to the Zoom integration, et cetera.
Yeah, I think what we realized I think, early was that a dedicated cinema with stadium style seating and big love seats didn't really match this aesthetic, and that we wanted a more open, inviting, integrated feel, but we didn't want to give up all the creature comforts of having a great listening and viewing experience. And so what we worked on were ways to integrate this technology into the room. So, this is one of the only rooms where you're going to see speakers outside of the troughs. And that's because these are dedicated surround speakers that are intended to be in the ceiling. We've got, of course, the sound bar here in this perfectly matched grill, but we also have two 14-inch subwoofers integrated into the bar. Now, you don't see them, but you sure feel them. And this, again, I think fell right into this hidden in plain sight thought process that we've been applying to this space. So it's hard to hide a 13.5-foot wide LED screen, but the trick was really making sure that the audio system blended into a very lovely living room experience. You can't see it in this photograph, but there's a full bar over here. And so it's a very open space. The back of the room are all power windows that open to the pool. And so we created an environment that, is a dedicated theater, but also is a perfect place to sort of swim up to and watch a football game as well. And so, again, it's really about feel.
Yeah, and it's,
John,
it's not just about the architectural components here, right? I mean, what have you guys done in terms of source control and bring your own device functionality, right? Because people like to stream their favorite YouTube, right? You go to that's one of my favorite things to do at a party is like bring up something on YouTube that somebody should have seen, like the Field of Dreams thing from last week, which had grown men crying like crazy or whatever. But, this sort of room facilitates that sort of media party, doesn't it? And you guys have done work on the source integration and BYOD. BYOD is bring your own device.
I mean, certainly there are, 16 high resolution 4K sources that are distributed to over 35 displays across 17 rooms throughout this entire space, including Kaleidoscape for movies, Apple TVs, and there is a full enterprise grade network solution supporting this entire house with over 25 wireless access points. And so you can AirPlay to an Apple TV easily and bring it up on any of these screens. There are ways that we've accounted for down the road, adding plugging in one of your HDMI outputs from your Mac computer so that it becomes a source if you want to pull it up on the TV and other elements like that. So, I mean, really no expense has been spared here. No solution that we offer has been left on the table. And so I can call up, television on all of those screens throughout the space, play the sound from TV on all 43 zones. And Savant IP Audio ensures that all of that audio and video is perfectly in time. So as I walk around the house and I'm listening to the Eagles hopefully destroy the Cowboys this year, I'm not going to get that echo effect that all of us have heard in large homes where we hear, touchdown, 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 and everybody's sort of off put by the cacophony that's created. This is all perfectly in sync with one another. Now, bring your own device. I think from an entertainment perspective, it's really about AirPlay and maybe Chromecast in a few instances. Certainly, the Apple TV has YouTube built in, so you can easily call that up. The home office has a Zoom room and lots of ways that we can integrate new devices into that space. And so we've really prepared this house for move-in effectively so that a family can move right in and start using this in the way they would expect to. And you're going to see a variety of different devices in that instance, and all of it's been accounted for.
Yeah, the TV has been around so long we tend to take it for granted, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics does a American use of time study every year, and at home there's only one thing that people do more than watch TV, and that's sleep. Sleep is by far, TV watching is by far the number one activity at home, so it shouldn't be ignored, in terms of serving your clients. And you can deliver over the top with TV now. and should make sure you're up to speed on that. And this is certainly there.
Hi, my name's Scott. I'm with a company called Intertech. Just wondering what kind of considerations you mentioned at the beginning that you integrate also like the HVAC. What do we have going on here both from energy efficiency and integration?
That's a great question. There's 12 zones of HVAC, all managed by a Savant solution. So we make a variety of different ways that we can actually control and automate heating and air conditioning. And so in this case, there's literally one can in a wall that has our 12 climate modules that are managing 12 Linux compressors. There's a few spaces, mechanical spaces that have a ductless solution that are low energy but keep the rack room super cool, and some of the electrical spaces on the roof cool, because of course in the desert they can get up to 130, 140 degrees in there without it. So it's hard to say a house like this is efficient because it's just so massive, which is why we have paired it with our microgrid so that we can begin to lower the carbon footprint by, again, flexible load management, shaving some loads off, and being able to run this space off grid. So if the grid goes offline, the house switches over to battery, and we can run almost every service throughout the entire space, certainly for a length of time. And that's all relative to time of day of the outage and how much battery storage was actually there. But the idea here is to enable this home to have a smaller carbon footprint relative to its physical footprint.
Hi, I'm Patrick with Urban Lux Builders in San Antonio, and we do Savant. My question is regarding the Savant Power. Whose batteries are you using? Are they your own, or are you using LG or Enphase, or are they compatible with multiple different battery sources?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of battery agnostic at this point. And so, there's a ton happening in the battery space. Solid state batteries are starting to be sort of cost effective. I think Toyota announced within 5 years they're going to move to all solid state batteries. And so we see that space sort of transforming a lot over the next few years. And so we really have taken a sort of battery agnostic position. There are a variety of batteries we can work with. You've mentioned a few. Our solution starts by making the electrical panel smart through our breaker companion modules, and starting to get that utility grade information and monitoring information flowing into our user interface. And again, we can use a variety of generators and batteries in tune with our software. It's really our software that ties all of these things together to make an energy smart solution. And so you're going to see us, work with all kinds of different batteries depending on preference, size, goals of the project, and of course technology. Like I said, just solid state's just one example of a new battery technology. There's advancements in hydrogen fuel cells that are happening where hydrogen can be trapped on the surface of a CD and then released through light, basically applying light to it. So I see just tons and tons of changes happening there, as our company does. And so we've really taken an agnostic position on batteries so that we can be flexible and move quickly with technology.
All right, I think we have hit the end of our time here. I think we got a great walkthrough here. I think the ingredient that I would like to add, maybe we can do it online with content, is Blue Heron's experience in working with you all on this project, as in, I know this is the most expensive home ever sold in Las Vegas at $25 million, like by $8 million. But I want to understand, is something like this, the combine of the design and the technology, help you break through to market bands that you couldn't have imagined in the past, and what the residual effects are down market at like 5 million or 8 million to have something like this? That would be cool to understand. Maybe we can work on that together. The other thing I want to tell you, Aaron, is everyone is leaning forward into this and they think it's cool, but they're also saying to themselves, how do I do that? Who's going to help me design it? How much does it really cost? Who's going to help me sell it? So you guys better be geared up to answer those questions, because this really whet the appetite, I would say. That's the way I'm reading the room. Am I right? Am I wrong? Yes, they're nodding their heads. So that's the way I'm reading the room. But now you got to be ready for step 2, okay? So let's thank Aaron
we're
for
ready.
waking up early and giving us a great overview. We give him a hand. He can hear you.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah.
If you're coming out west, let us know. We'd love to give you a personal tour of the space.
And thanks, Savant, for sponsoring this session. You'll be meeting with your boardroom group leaders outside the door and off to your next group of boardrooms. Thanks so much.